There is a strange sadness hidden behind almost every human pursuit. And because it hides behind beautiful words and respectable ambitions, very few people ever recognize it for what it is. People call it success. They call it achievement. They call it security. They call it purpose. Yet beneath all these names, there often exists a silent longing that refuses to disappear, no matter how much is accomplished, no matter how many dreams are fulfilled, no matter how many desires are satisfied. Have you ever noticed, beloved ones, that the moment one desire is fulfilled, another immediately appears? That the mind celebrates victory only briefly before inventing a new destination? That happiness arrives for a moment and then quietly slips away, like a visitor who was never planning to stay. Humanity has become trapped inside this endless movement, this continuous chase toward a future that never truly arrives. And because everybody is running together, the running itself appears normal. Very few stop long enough to ask a deeper question. What if joy is not at the end of the journey? What if the very search for happiness is preventing something far more beautiful from being discovered? What if there exists a way of living that is not based upon chasing fulfillment, but upon dancing with existence itself? This is where Tantra begins. And beloved ones, before the mind immediately fills itself with misunderstandings, let us move slowly. Because Tantra is perhaps one of the most misunderstood words in the entire spiritual world. People hear the word and instantly think about techniques, rituals, sexuality, secret teachings, mysterious practices, or exotic philosophies. But authentic Tantra is far deeper than any of these things. Tantra is not primarily a method. It is not a doctrine. It is not even a religion in the ordinary sense. Tantra is a way of seeing. It is a radical shift in perception. It is the recognition that existence is not your enemy, not a problem to solve, not a prison from which you must escape, but a living mystery inviting your participation. Most spiritual traditions have approached life through a struggle. They divide reality into opposites. They create conflict between body and soul, matter and spirit, desire and holiness, earth and heaven. Humanity becomes divided against itself. One part of being is accepted, while another part is condemned. One impulse is praised, while another is rejected. The result is inner warfare. People spend entire lifetimes fighting themselves. Tantra enters with a completely different vision. It says that existence is already whole. It says that life itself is sacred. It says that nothing needs to be rejected before consciousness can awaken. It says that awakening happens not through resistance to life, but through profound participation in it. Look carefully at nature, beloved ones. The trees do not struggle to become trees. The rivers do not apologize for flowing. The birds do not seek permission to sing. The flowers do not compare themselves with one another. Existence functions through an effortless harmony that humanity has largely forgotten. Human beings alone seem determined to transform life into a continuous project of self-improvement. They are always becoming, never being. Always chasing, never arriving. Always preparing to live someday while postponing life today. The mind survives through dissatisfaction. It whispers continuously that something is missing, that somewhere ahead there exists a better version of reality, a better version of yourself, a better moment than this one. And because people believe this voice, they remain trapped inside psychological time. They live in tomorrow. They live in memory. They live in fantasy. But they rarely live here. Tantra begins by bringing you back to this moment. Not as a philosophical idea, not as a spiritual slogan, as a direct experience. It invites you to feel the miracle of simply existing. Not someday, not after enlightenment, not after success, not after healing, now. This breath, this heartbeat, this moment. And when you begin experiencing life directly, rather than through constant mental interpretation, something remarkable happens. Ordinary existence starts revealing extraordinary depth. A sunrise is no longer merely a sunrise. The movement of wind through leaves becomes a form of meditation. The sound of rain becomes music. A simple breath becomes sacred. Not because anything external has changed, but because perception has changed. Human beings have become addicted to happiness, and this addiction creates immense suffering because happiness depends upon conditions. Happiness arrives when life behaves according to expectation. Happiness arrives when desires are fulfilled. Happiness arrives when circumstances appear favorable. But because circumstances are always changing, happiness remains unstable. Today you feel happy, tomorrow something changes. Today there is excitement, tomorrow there is disappointment. Happiness dances with opposites. It comes and goes. It rises and falls. Joy is different. Joy is not the opposite of sadness. Joy is deeper than both happiness and sadness. Joy is what remains when you stop demanding that life conform to your preferences. Joy arises when you begin participating in existence without continuously negotiating with it. This is why Tantra speaks of dancing with the divine. Notice the beauty of the metaphor. A dance is not a battle. A dance is not an achievement. A dance is not a conquest. A dance requires sensitivity, presence, awareness, responsiveness. In a dance, you cannot force the music. You listen, you move with it, you become part of it. Tantra suggests that life itself is such a dance. Existence is continuously moving. Seasons change, bodies age, relationships evolve, emotions rise and fall, success appears and disappears, birth comes, death comes, everything moves. The unconscious person resists this movement continuously. He demands permanence in an impermanent world. He demands certainty in an uncertain universe. He demands control over forces far greater than himself. Naturally, suffering follows. The Tantric approach is different. Instead of fighting the movement, it learns to dance with it. Beloved ones, perhaps the deepest tragedy of humanity is not pain itself, but resistance to pain. Life contains joy and sorrow. It contains duty and loss. It contains creation and destruction. These opposites belong to existence, yet the mind wants only half of reality. It says, "Give me pleasure but not pain. Give me success but not failure. Give me life but not death." Such demands are impossible. Existence is a whole. The moment you accept one aspect, you accept the entire mystery. Tantra does not ask you to become attached to suffering. It simply asks you to stop fighting reality. And in that acceptance, a strange transformation occurs. Energy that was previously wasted on resistance becomes available for awareness. You begin experiencing life more deeply, more fully, more directly. The mind imagines freedom as control. Tantra discovers freedom through surrender. Not surrender to another person, not surrender to authority, surrender to reality itself, surrender to what is. This does not mean passivity, it means intelligence. A skilled sailor does not control the wind. He learns to work with it. A wise person does not control existence. He learns its rhythms. He learns its movement. He learns its dance. And because he is no longer fighting continuously, life begins flowing through him with extraordinary grace. When this understanding deepens, beloved ones, joy appears. Not happiness dependent upon circumstances, but joy without reason. Joy that arises from being alive. Joy that arises from participation. Joy that arises because existence itself becomes enough. then even ordinary moments become luminous. Drinking tea becomes meditation. Walking becomes prayer. Breathing becomes celebration. Silence becomes nourishment. Solitude becomes richness rather than loneliness. You stop asking life to entertain you because you have discovered the wonder hidden inside simple awareness itself. And perhaps this is what the mystics have always meant when they spoke about the divine. Not a distant ruler hidden somewhere beyond the stars. Not an authority watching from above, but the living intelligence flowing through existence itself. The same intelligence that opens flowers, the same intelligence that moves oceans, the same intelligence that beats your heart while you sleep. To dance with the divine is simply to become conscious of this participation. To recognize that you are not separate from life, but an expression of life. Not an outsider looking in, but a wave belonging to the ocean. Then joy is no longer something you pursue. Joy becomes the fragrance of alignment, the fragrance of acceptance, the fragrance of awareness, the fragrance of dancing with existence exactly as it is. And beloved ones, when that dance begins, you discover something astonishing. Happiness comes and goes. Pleasure comes and goes. Success comes and goes. Everything changes. Yet beneath all change, there exists a celebration that never depends upon circumstances. A joy beyond happiness, a joy beyond achievement, a joy beyond becoming, a joy born from simply being. And that joy, beloved ones, is the doorway through which the divine enters everyday life. Beloved ones, once you begin tasting this joy beyond happiness, another profound realization starts emerging. And it is a realization that can transform the entire way you relate to yourself and to the world. Because you slowly discover that most of what you previously called living was actually a continuous effort to avoid life. This may sound paradoxical, yet look carefully and you will see it everywhere. People avoid silence by creating noise. They avoid uncertainty by creating beliefs. They avoid loneliness by creating dependency. They avoid fear by creating distractions. They avoid themselves through endless activity. Humanity has become extraordinarily skilled at escaping the present moment, because the present moment contains something that the mind cannot control. The present moment is alive. It is unpredictable. It is fresh. It refuses to fit neatly into the categories of memory and expectation. The mind feels comfortable only with what it already knows. It wants repetition. because repetition creates the illusion of safety. But existence is not repetition. Existence is creativity. Every sunrise is different. Every cloud moves differently across the sky. Every breath is unique. Every heartbeat belongs to a moment that has never existed before and will never exist again. Tantra invites you to stop hiding from this mystery and to begin participating in it consciously. One of the reasons people struggle to understand the Tantric approach is because they have been conditioned to believe that spirituality means seriousness. They imagine that truth must be heavy. They imagine that wisdom must look solemn. They imagine that holiness requires tension, discipline, sacrifice, and struggle. But beloved ones, have you noticed that existence itself is not serious? Sincere, yes. Profound, certainly. Mysterious beyond comprehension, but serious? Look at the birds singing in the morning. Look at children laughing for no reason. Look at flowers blooming without ambition. Look at stars filling the night sky in silent celebration. Existence moves with an effortless playfulness that humanity has forgotten. The serious person is often deeply identified with the ego, because the ego survives through importance. It wants everything to be significant. It wants everything to revolve around itself. It turns life into a burden because burden gives it substance. The more important you feel, the heavier you become. The more you cling to identity, the more difficult life becomes. But the moment awareness deepens, a new quality appears. You begin taking life seriously enough to be present, yet lightly enough to dance with it. This balance is rare. It is one of the fragrances of awakening. The ego is always concerned with becoming. It says, one day I will arrive. One day I will be successful. One day I will be enlightened. One day I will be respected. One day I will be complete. Notice how this mechanism functions. It continuously postpones fulfillment into the future. The future becomes a psychological drug. The promise of tomorrow keeps the mind occupied, yet tomorrow never arrives. When tomorrow comes, it arrives as today. Then the mind creates another tomorrow. The cycle continues endlessly. Tantra interrupts this cycle by bringing awareness back to the immediacy of existence. It asks a simple but revolutionary question. What is lacking in this moment when thought is absent? Not what might be lacking tomorrow, not what was lacking yesterday. Right now, in this breath, in this awareness, in this simple experience of being alive, the answer may surprise you. Much of what appears missing exists only as a mental projection. The mind creates dissatisfaction and then offers solutions to the dissatisfaction it created. This is one of the great games of unconsciousness. Beloved ones, there comes a moment when the seeker begins noticing that every pursuit contains a hidden hope. The hope is always the same. Beneath every desire edges the longing to feel whole. Some seek wealth because they believe it will bring completeness. Others seek relationships. Others seek knowledge. Others seek spiritual experiences. The object changes, but the longing remains identical. Humanity is searching for itself through countless disguises. A person thinks he wants power, but what he truly wants is freedom from insecurity. Another thinks she wants recognition, but what she truly wants is the feeling of being enough. Another seeks enlightenment because he imagines it will finally end his inner conflict. Beneath every search lies the same hunger. The tantric insight is that the hunger itself points towards something profound. It points toward the forgotten experience of wholeness. Yet, wholeness cannot be achieved because it already exists. It can only be recognized. This is why acceptance plays such a central role in the tantric path. Acceptance is not resignation. It is not passivity. It is not surrendering to mediocrity. Acceptance is seeing reality clearly without immediately demanding that it becomes something else. Most people never truly encounter reality because they encounter only their judgments about reality. They look at a situation and immediately label it good or bad. They look at a person and immediately categorize them. They look at themselves and immediately begin evaluating, comparing, criticizing, or defending. Their minds function like constant commentators standing between consciousness and existence. Tantra asks you to step beyond the commentary and encounter life directly, to see without labeling, to feel without judging, to experience without constantly interpreting. In that direct encounter, life regains its freshness. Have you ever noticed, beloved ones, how beauty appears most intensely when the mind becomes quiet? A sunset does not become beautiful because you analyze it. A flower does not become beautiful because you compare it with another flower. Music does not touch your heart because you think about it. Beauty enters when thought relaxes and awareness opens. For a brief moment, the observer and the observed are no longer separate. There is only experience, only presence, only participation. These moments reveal something essential. They reveal that joy is not created by objects. Joy is revealed when separation decreases. The more divided consciousness becomes, the more difficult it is to experience joy. The more united consciousness becomes, the more naturally joy flows. This is why love occupies such an important place within the Tantric vision. Yet, beloved ones, Tantra speaks of love very differently than the ordinary mind. Ordinary love often contains fear. It contains possession. It contains dependency. It contains expectation. It says, I love you because you make me feel complete. But such love easily becomes suffering, because anything that makes you feel complete can also make you feel incomplete. Tantra sees love not as a transaction, but as a state of being. Love is not something you do. Love is something you become. When fear begins dissolving, it is openness, receptivity, presence. The more conscious you become, the more naturally love appears, because awareness dissolves the barriers that create separation. The mind wants certainty. Love requires vulnerability. The mind wants guarantees. Life offers mystery. The mind wants control. Existence offers participation. This is why the tantric path often feels dangerous to the ego. The ego wants instructions. It wants formulas. It wants certainty. Tantra offers awareness instead. Awareness cannot guarantee outcomes, because awareness is concerned not with control but with presence. The conscious person enters each moment openly. He responds rather than reacts. He listens rather than assumes. He participates rather than rages. And because he is not fighting life continuously, a tremendous amount of energy becomes available. Beloved ones, energy is one of the most misunderstood dimensions of human existence. Most people waste enormous amounts of energy in inner conflict. They fight themselves continuously. One desire struggles against another desire. One belief struggles against another belief. One identity struggles against another identity. The result is exhaustion. Humanity is tired, not because life requires so much energy, but because psychological conflict consumes it unnecessarily. When awareness enters, conflict begins softening. The divided parts of being start coming together. Energy that was trapped in resistance becomes available for creativity, love, celebration, and meditation. Then life starts feeling lighter, simpler, more fluid. And this fluidity is the essence of dancing with the divine. The dancer cannot remain rigid. The dancer cannot cling to fixed positions. Every movement requires responsiveness. Every step requires listening. Life is exactly the same. Existence is not static. It is a living process. The conscious person learns to move with it. He learns when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to hold on and when to let go. This intelligence does not come from rules, it comes from awareness. Awareness becomes the inner compass guiding each movement. Then a strange transformation begins taking place. Joy no longer depends upon achievement. It no longer depends upon circumstances. It no longer depends upon success. Joy becomes the natural fragrance of participation itself. You enjoy the journey rather than living only for destinations. You discover richness in simple moments. You begin feeling gratitude without needing a reason. Not gratitude because life is perfect. Gratitude because life exists. Because consciousness exists. Because this mysterious opportunity to experience existence has been given. And beloved ones, perhaps this is the ultimate secret hidden within the Tantric approach. The divine is not waiting at the end of life. The divine is the life unfolding now. Not somewhere else, not later, here. In the sound of rain against a window, in the movement of wind through trees, in laughter shared between friends, in silence, in love, in sorrow, in mystery, in the simple fact that awareness is present. When this is understood deeply, the search begins dissolving. Not because curiosity disappears, but because separation disappears. You are no longer standing outside existence looking for meaning. You are participating in existence directly. Then joy beyond happiness flowers naturally. Not the joy that depends upon favorable circumstances. Not the joy that appears and disappears with success. Not the joy that belongs to achievement. But a deeper joy, a quieter joy, a joy rooted in presence itself, a joy born from alignment with life, a joy that remains even when happiness comes and goes, a joy that dances through every season, a joy that belongs not to the ego but to being itself. And in that joy, beloved ones, the dance and the dancer is slowly become one. Beloved ones, there is one final mystery that Tantra invites you to understand. And perhaps it is the most beautiful mystery of all. Because it transforms not only how you live, but how you see existence itself. Most people move through life as if they are outsiders, standing at the edge of reality, as if they are separate observers looking at a universe that exists independently of them. They look at the stars and think, those stars are out there and I am in here. They look at the trees and think, that tree is separate from me. They look at another human being and think, that person is different from me. This feeling of separation becomes so habitual that it is rarely questioned. Yet Tantra whispers something entirely different. It says that separation is largely an illusion created by the mind. The breath moving through your lungs was once part of the atmosphere. The food nourishing your body was once part of the earth. The thoughts moving through your consciousness are influenced by countless experiences, relationships, and encounters. Everything is connected. Everything participates in everything else. You are not standing outside existence. You are existence, expressing itself in a unique form. The wave is not separate from the ocean. The leaf is not separate from the tree. The dancer is not separate from the dance. And once this understanding begins moving from intellectual theory into direct experience, an extraordinary relaxation enters life. Because now you no longer feel burdened by the impossible task of carrying yourself alone through the universe. You begin sensing that life is carrying you just as much as you are moving through life. You begin trusting the deeper intelligence that beats your heart, grows the flowers, moves the seasons, and guides the stars through the night sky. This trust is not belief, it is participation. It is the recognition that you belong to existence and existence belongs to you. When joy begins appearing in unexpected places, not the joy that depends upon success, not the joy that depends upon pleasure, not the joy that arrives because conditions are temporarily favorable. A deeper joy emerges, a joy that seems almost causeless, almost mysterious, almost unreasonable from the perspective of the mind. The mind always asks, why are you happy? It expects happiness to have a reason. It expects joy to be connected to achievement. But the joy of Tantra has no obvious cause, because it arises from alignment itself. It arises when resistance weakens. It arises when the struggle to become somebody begins dissolving. It arises when you stop demanding that reality fulfill your expectations and start participating in reality as it is. Suddenly, a breeze touching your skin contains joy. The sound of rain against a window contains joy. A bird singing at dawn contains joy. Sitting silently beneath a tree contains joy. Nothing extraordinary has happened, yet everything feels extraordinary because awareness has become alive. Existence reveals itself not as a problem to solve, but as a miracle to experience. And beloved ones, once you taste this kind of joy, the ordinary ambitions of the ego begin losing some of their hypnotic power. You still function in the world, you still work, create, love, and participate, but inwardly something has shifted. You are no longer chasing happiness because you have discovered a joy that exists beneath the chase itself. This is why Tantra has always been misunderstood by societies built upon control and fear. The truly joyful person becomes difficult to manipulate because manipulation depends upon dissatisfaction. If you can convince people they are incomplete, they become obedient consumers. If you can convince them they are inadequate, they become easy to control. If you can convince them that fulfillment exists somewhere else, they will spend their lives running in circles. But the tantric individual begins discovering fulfillment within awareness itself. Such a person becomes free in a way that frightens systems based upon dependency. Not rebellious in an angry sense, not revolutionary in a political sense, simply free. Free enough to enjoy simplicity. Free enough to question social conditioning. Free enough to remain present. Free enough to live authentically. And authenticity possesses a power that no institution can fully control because it arises from direct experience rather than external authority. Beloved ones, another beautiful aspect of the tantric path is that it transforms your relationship with love. Ordinarily, people approach love from a place of inner poverty. They seek another person to complete them. They seek rescue from loneliness. They seek validation, security, reassurance, and psychological comfort. As a result, what they call love often becomes dependency. They cling, they possess, they fear loss continuously. They become jealous, they become controlling. Their relationships contain moments of beauty, but they also contain suffering. Because each person is unconsciously demanding that the other fill an inner emptiness. Tantra approaches love differently. Tantra says that when you discover your own inner fullness, love changes its quality completely. Then you do not love because you need. You love because you overflow. You do not love because you are incomplete. You love because your completeness seeks expression. Such love is less possessive, less fearful, less demanding. It gives freedom because it arises from freedom. It celebrates rather than controls. It appreciates rather than owns. It becomes a meeting of two whole beings rather than an arrangement between two psychological beggars hoping to steal fulfillment from each other. And beloved ones, this kind of love contains a sacredness that cannot be manufactured, because it emerges naturally when consciousness deepens. As awareness continues flowering, even suffering begins revealing a different face. This does not mean suffering disappears entirely. Pain remains part of life. Loss remains part of life. Illness, aging, uncertainty, and death remain part of life. Tantra does not promise escape from these realities. What changes is your relationship with them. The unconscious person resists suffering and thereby multiplies it. The conscious person experiences pain without adding unnecessary psychological struggle. There is sadness, but not despair. There is loss, but not self-destruction. There is grief, but also awareness surrounding grief. The pain moves through consciousness like weather moving through the sky. It is felt deeply, but it is not mistaken for permanent identity. This creates tremendous resilience because now life is allowed to move naturally. Emotions come and go, experiences come and go, seasons change, awareness remains. And from this awareness arises a quiet strength, far greater than denial or suppression. Beloved ones, perhaps the most profound realization of the Tantric approach is that enlightenment is not somewhere else. Humanity has spent centuries imagining enlightenment as a distant mountain peak reserved for extraordinary individuals. People imagine that one day, after enough effort, enough discipline, enough spiritual practice, they will finally arrive. Tantra laughs gently at this idea. It says the destination is hidden inside the traveler. The treasure is hidden inside the seeker. The divine is hidden inside the ordinary moment. The problem is not that enlightenment is far away. The problem is that attention is always somewhere else. Attention is trapped in memory, trapped in anticipation, trapped in desire, trapped in fear. The present moment remains overlooked because it seems too simple, yet reality exists only here. Life exists only here. Awareness exists only here. And when consciousness becomes fully available to the present moment, even briefly, something remarkable becomes visible. The ordinary moment begins glowing with extraordinary depth. Nothing has changed externally. The same room, the same body, the same sounds, the same breath. Yet everything feels different because you are finally here to experience it. And beloved ones, this is why the Tantric path is often described as a dance rather than a discipline. A dance requires participation. A dance requires presence. A dance cannot be performed mechanically. If your mind is somewhere else, the dance disappears. Life is the same. The divine is not hiding in distant heavens. The divine is dancing through existence right now. It is dancing through sunlight falling across a floor. It is dancing through laughter. It is dancing through silence. It is dancing through love, through sorrow, through birth, through death, through every movement of existence. The question is not whether the dance is happening. The question is whether you are available to it. Most people stand at the edge watching. Tantra invites you to enter. And when you enter completely, beloved ones, something extraordinary happens. The division between sacred and ordinary begins disappearing. Washing dishes becomes sacred. Walking becomes sacred. Breathing becomes sacred. Making love becomes sacred. Sitting quietly becomes sacred. Working becomes sacred. Resting becomes sacred. Not because the activities themselves have changed, but because awareness has entered them. The divine is no longer confined to temples, churches, scriptures, rituals, or philosophies. It becomes visible everywhere because consciousness itself has become clear. Then every moment contains the possibility of revelation. Every encounter contains the possibility of wonder. Every breath becomes an opportunity to remember who you are. And what are you, beloved ones? Not merely a personality, not merely a collection of memories, not merely a body moving through time. Beneath all these changing forms, there is awareness itself, silent, spacious, alive. Tantra invites you to live from that awareness, to love from that awareness, to create from that awareness, to dance from that awareness. Because once awareness becomes the center of life, joy no longer depends entirely upon circumstances. Happiness may come and go. Success may come and go. Pleasure may come and go. But joy remains like an underground river, flowing beneath all experiences. It remains available because it arises from being rather than having. And so the journey ends where it began, not in achievement, but in awakening, not in becoming, but in remembering, not in escaping life, but in entering life more completely than ever before. The divine was never absent. The music was never absent. The dance was never absent. Only attention was elsewhere. Only consciousness was distracted by noise, fear, ambition, and endless becoming. But now, perhaps, you begin hearing the music again. Perhaps you begin feeling the rhythm, beneath the chaos, perhaps you begin sensing that existence itself is inviting you to participate. And if you accept that invitation, beloved ones, then life is no longer something to endure. It becomes something to celebrate. Not because it is perfect, but because it is alive. Not because it gives you everything you want, but because it reveals everything you need. Not because suffering disappears, but because awareness becomes greater than suffering. Then joy is no longer the opposite of sadness. Joy becomes the fragrance of consciousness itself. And in that fragrance, beloved ones, there is freedom, there is love, there is silence, there is wonder, there is the dance, and there is the divine, not waiting at the end of the journey, but moving through every step of it.